Your legs weaken first. Eat these 6 foods to strengthen them quickly. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in this vast world. I urge you to stop what you are doing for the next minutes. What I am about to share with you is not a simple suggestion, but a revelation that could, genuinely and profoundly, radically transform the way you move, the way you feel every day, and, ultimately, your quality of life for the rest of your existence. Here is a fundamental truth that most doctors, absorbed in the routines of their consultations, will never say out loud. Your legs are not merely weakening because you are aging. That is a myth that we need to banish. Your legs are actually becoming more fragile and less resilient because no one has taught and shared with you what specific nutrients they need to stay strong and vital. And the difference between these two perspectives is abysmal. It's like day and night. One is an immutable sentence, a tragic destiny that seems inevitable. The other, however, is a powerful and tangible solution, a path to recovery and strength. And today I am here not only to point out the problem, but to give you that long-awaited solution. I will present 6 specific foods carefully classified, from those that are simply useful to those that are absolutely transformative. These powerful nutritional allies have the potential to rebuild the strength of your legs from their foundations, restore muscle tissue that you thought was lost forever, and return that stability and confidence to move that you perhaps thought no longer belonged to you. Now, before we delve into this valuable information, let me share with you a fact that left me completely stunned and made me reflect deeply when I first read it. A pioneering study published in the prestigious Journal of the American Geriatric Society revealed that adults over 65 who experience significant muscle weakness in their lower body face a 72% higher risk of developing a mobility disability within a 5-year period. Furthermore, this group showed an alarming increase in hospitalizations related to falls, admissions to nursing homes, and, sadly, higher early mortality. A 72%, that is not a small or insignificant number. It is a statistic that screams for attention and action. It means that almost 3 out of 4 people could have intervened in time. They could have avoided this path, but they didn't because they simply didn't know what we now know about nutrition, muscle biology, and the aging process of our body. And I'll tell you something right now to keep your intrigue. The number 1 food on this list is something you probably already have in your kitchen, an ingredient so common that you may have even been told to avoid it. However, researchers at Harvard Medical School now firmly believe that it is one of the most protective compounds for muscles and most powerful available to human beings over 60 years of age. I will save that treasure for the end, because once you hear it, you will never look at your shopping list the same way again. But before we dive into the details of the list, I want to ask you a very personal question. Please leave a comment below telling me your age, and if you have noticed that your legs feel weaker, heavier, or less stable than they used to be. Perhaps climbing stairs has become a greater challenge, an arduous task. Perhaps you have had a stumble or a fall that almost happened, a scare that made you aware of your fragility. Perhaps getting up from a chair now requires considerably more effort than before. I assure you that I read every comment on this channel, absolutely every single one of them. And your story, your personal experience, could be exactly the reason why another person finds this video and changes their life for the better. So, please take 30 seconds and share your experience with me. Now, let's begin this journey of discovery. We are going to count down from 6 to 1, moving from the powerful to what will truly change your life. Coming in at number 6, and this fact surprises almost everyone I tell it to, we find eggs. I know what you're thinking. You've heard the debate about eggs your whole life. that they raise cholesterol, that they are bad for your heart, that it's best to avoid them and stay away from them. Let me tell you, with the absolute backing of current nutritional science, that this advice, especially aimed at adults over 60 years of age, was one of the most detrimental and harmful that was widely circulated in the health sphere. Because here's what eggs actually do for your aging legs, for your muscular vitality. Eggs are, without a doubt, one of the most complete sources of leucine on the entire planet. Leucine is an essential amino acid, and if that term sounds a bit foreign to you, imagine leucine as the master key that turns on the engine of muscle protein synthesis. This is the fundamental biological process by which your body actively builds and repairs muscle tissue. After 65 years of age, our body develops what researchers have called anabolic resistance. This means, in simple terms, that your muscles become a bit stubborn. They no longer respond with the same efficiency to protein signals. They need a more powerful stimulus, a trigger to achieve the same growth and repair response. Leucine is precisely that trigger. 2 large whole eggs provide approximately 1.6 grams of leucine, and research from the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign showed that this amount is sufficient to significantly stimulate muscle protein synthesis, even in older adults who already had considerable anabolic resistance. But there's something else that makes eggs truly special beyond leucine: the yolk. Yes, that part you are so often told to throw away is a nutritional treasure. It contains choline, vitamin D, and an extraordinary compound called phosphatidylcholine, which plays a crucial role in maintaining the integrity of the membranes of your muscle cells. As we age, these cell membranes can become more fragile, less able to retain the essential nutrients that muscles need to contract and recover optimally. The yolk, in essence, acts as a protective lining for your muscle cells, like an invisible armor. Discarding it is like buying a new car and leaving the engine at the dealership, inefficient and counterproductive. A patient, 74, from Sarasota, Florida, came to me after her second fall in 6 months. She was terrified of her own stairs. She had turned them into an impassable obstacle. She had followed a low-fat diet for more than a decade, completely avoiding eggs on the advice of an old-school doctor. We incorporated 3 whole eggs a day into her morning routine. In just 8 weeks, she told me with tears in her eyes that she had climbed her stairs without holding onto the handrail for the first time in 2 years. That was no coincidence. It wasn't luck. It was leucine, choline, and vitamin D acting exactly as science predicts they would. For best results, consume 2 or 3 whole eggs in the morning, ideally with a small amount of healthy fat, such as olive oil or avocado, which we will talk about shortly. Fat improves the absorption of fat-soluble vitamins present in the yolk. Do not scramble them in a dry pan over high heat. Gentle heat and delicate cooking preserve the integrity of the proteins, maximizing their benefits. Moving on to number 5, in our countdown, we find wild salmon. If your legs feel heavy as lead, if you get nocturnal cramps that interrupt your rest, if they hurt when you wake up in the morning, it is very likely that chronic inflammation is silently destroying your muscle tissue while you sleep. Wild salmon is, without a doubt, one of the most powerful and effective anti-inflammatory weapons that nature has given us. The key active compounds are omega-3 fatty acids, EPA and DHA. And before your eyes glaze over reading these acronyms, let me explain what they really do inside an aging body. Imagine inflammation in your muscle tissue as a low-intensity wildfire. It starts small, burns constantly at an almost imperceptible level, and over years and decades chars everything around it. Muscle fibers, connective tissue, the nerve pathways that send signals from your brain to your legs to move. EPA and DHA are like tanker planes that drop water on that fire. They not only calm the flames, but chemically neutralize inflammatory compounds, specifically a group called prostaglandins and cytokines, which your body produces in increasing amounts after 60 years of age. A study from the University of Aberdeen in Scotland followed 87 adults over 65 years of age for 18 weeks. The group that consumed omega-3 fatty acids, equivalent to approximately 3 portions of wild salmon per week, experienced an astonishing 22% increase in the rate of muscle protein synthesis compared to the control group. A 22%. That's not a miracle supplement, that's simply a fish. But salmon has another gift for aging legs that almost no one talks about. It is one of the few dietary sources of vitamin D3, the active form of vitamin D that your skin can no longer produce efficiently after 70 years of age. Research published in the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology found that vitamin D deficiency, which affects an estimated 77% of adults over 65 years of age, is directly associated with muscle weakness, impaired balance, and an elevated risk of sarcopenia, which is the medical term for age-related muscle loss. A 6-ounce portion of wild sockeye salmon provides up to 988 international units of vitamin D3. The minimum daily recommended for adults over 70 years of age is 800 IU. You get it in a single meal. Consume salmon 2 or 3 times a week, and it is critically important that it be wild salmon. Farmed salmon has a drastically different omega-3 to omega-6 ratio and does not provide the same anti-inflammatory benefit. Accompany it with a handful of dark leafy greens to maximize synergy with vitamin K2, a topic we will address with our next food. At number 4 in the countdown, and this has an almost mythical reputation among longevity researchers, we find spinach and dark leafy greens. I invite you to think of every older person you have seen move with agility, get up from a chair without leaning on the armrests, or walk without dragging their feet. I would bet a significant amount that dark leafy greens were a regular and fundamental part of their diet. Here is the biological explanation of why this is so. After 75 years of age, our body loses approximately 35% of its ability to recycle nitric oxide, a vital molecule that acts as a traffic controller for blood flow in your legs. When nitric oxide levels decrease, your microcirculation, that is, the tiny blood vessels that feed your quadriceps, your hamstrings, and your calves, begins to get congested. Essential nutrients have difficulty reaching, and waste products cannot be eliminated effectively. The result is that muscles fatigue more quickly, recover more slowly, and shrink year after year, losing their volume and functionality. Spinach, kale, chard, and arugula are packed with dietary nitrates. Our body converts these nitrates back into nitric oxide through a process involving bacteria present in your saliva. You are essentially using food to circumvent and compensate for what aging has been taking away. A notable study from the Karolinska Institute in Sweden found that supplementation with inorganic nitrates in doses equivalent to about 200 grams of spinach improved skeletal muscle efficiency in older adults by an impressive 19%. The muscle did not get bigger, it simply became much more efficient in using the oxygen and nutrients that were already reaching it. Think of it as improving the fuel injection system in an old engine. The engine itself does not change, but it runs smoother, cleaner, and longer, optimizing its performance. Spinach is also extraordinarily rich in magnesium, a mineral of which 68% of Americans over 60 years of age have a chronic deficiency. Magnesium is essential for more than 300 enzymatic reactions in the body, and among the most critical is muscle relaxation, when your legs cramp at night, when your calves tense up, when your feet involuntarily curl. that is almost always a sign of magnesium deficiency. 1 cup of cooked spinach provides you with 157 milligrams of magnesium, which represents approximately 37% of your daily requirement in a single serving. A patient, 71, a retired postman from Cincinnati, came to me describing his legs as if they were full of cement every morning. He had been taking magnesium supplements for years with limited success. We changed his approach. 2 cups of sautéed spinach daily with olive oil and garlic. 6 weeks later, he told me that the feeling of cement had completely disappeared. He was back to walking his old postal route, just for exercise, for the sheer pleasure of moving and feeling free. Olive oil, by the way, drastically increases the absorption of fat-soluble compounds in spinach. Always cook your leafy greens with a quality fat to maximize the benefits. Right here, between point 4 and 3, I want to pause and ask you something. If this information has already opened your eyes to something you didn't know, please hit the like button right now. This tells YouTube to share this video with more older adults who need exactly this vital information. And if you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, do it now. Every week, we bring you practical and clinically sound health information, designed specifically for adults who want to live stronger for longer and on their own terms. The subscribe button is right there. It only takes a second, and it could be one of the best health decisions you make today. Now, number 3, and we enter elite territory: Greek yogurt. Most people conceive yogurt as a light snack, something you eat when you're trying to be healthy or control your weight. What many people don't realize is that full-fat Greek yogurt, with all its fat, is one of the most anabolically powerful foods available to an aging human body, and is drastically underutilized as a muscle-building tool in older people. Here's why it deserves a place of honor on this list. A single cup of plain, full-fat Greek yogurt contains approximately between 17 and 20 grams of high-quality protein. And what is crucial, it contains a specific amino acid profile, including, again, leucine, as well as isoleucine and valine. These are the 3 branched-chain amino acids, BCAA, which are absorbed directly into muscle tissue with remarkable efficiency. Unlike plant proteins, which are often incomplete and require combination with other foods to be fully utilized, Greek yogurt protein is what scientists call highly bioavailable. It doesn't take the scenic route. It goes directly to where your muscles need it. But here's the element that truly elevates Greek yogurt above a simple protein source for older adults. It contains live probiotic cultures, specifically lactobacillus, which influence something researchers now call the gut-muscle axis. This is a relatively new field of study, and the findings are extraordinary and promising. Research from the University of California, Davis, found that healthy gut microbiome populations in older adults were directly correlated with greater lean muscle mass, better leg strength scores, and faster recovery after physical exertion. The gut, it turns out, is not only digesting your food, it is regulating how much of that food your muscles can actually use and leverage. After 65 years of age, the gut microbiome typically becomes less diverse, less robust, and less efficient in extracting nutrients from food. Probiotic-rich foods, like Greek yogurt, help restore that vital diversity. Think of it as restocking a library that has been slowly losing its books. The more complete the library, the better your body can find and use the information it needs. For maximum benefit, consume your Greek yogurt within 30 to 45 minutes after any physical activity. Even a short walk counts. This is your anabolic window, the period when your muscles are most receptive to protein signals. Add a tablespoon of ground flaxseed for additional omega-3s, or a drizzle of raw honey that contains enzymes that can further improve the survival of probiotics in the digestive tract. Always choose natural, full-fat versions. Low-fat versions often replace fat with added sugars, which promotes the inflammation we are trying to fight. Now we are at number 2, and I promised you at the beginning of this video that one of the main items would surprise you. This is the chosen one. Number 2 is beets. I can see some of you smiling in surprise. Others may be skeptical, and I completely understand, because beets are not the first thing that comes to mind when you think about building strong, robust legs. However, the research supporting beets and their impact on physical performance in older adults is so compelling and powerful that leading sports medicine institutions have integrated beet-derived compounds into their recovery protocols. This is not folk medicine or a home remedy. It is cutting-edge science applied to the aging body. The central mechanism revolves around those dietary nitrates that I mentioned with spinach, but beets contain them in concentrations that are approximately 3 to 4 times higher per gram than any leafy green vegetable. A medium beet contains approximately 300 derms of dietary nitrates. When those nitrates reach the environment of working muscle tissues with low oxygenation, they are converted into nitric oxide with extraordinary efficiency. The result is what researchers call a vasodilatory cascade, a wave of opening of blood vessels that floods your legs with oxygen and nutrients in a way that aged vascular tissue normally cannot produce on its own. A study conducted at Wake Forest University found that older adults who consumed beet juice, equivalent to 2 medium beets, before moderate exercise, showed a 38% increase in blood flow to white matter regions of the brain associated with motor control. Let me explain it another way, so that the impact is clear. Beets not only improved what was happening in your legs, but also improved the brain's ability to control those legs. For older adults concerned about falls, coordination, about nerve-muscle communication that erodes with age, this is a finding of immense proportions. Beets are also rich in betaine, a compound that reduces homocysteine levels in the blood. Elevated homocysteine, which affects approximately 47% of adults over 60, is associated with accelerated muscle loss, vascular damage, and impaired mitochondrial function. Mitochondria are the energy generators of your muscle cells. When damaged, your muscles function like a car with a faulty battery, with low power and efficiency. Betaine helps clean up the chemistry that protects those vital generators. A patient, 68, from Portland, Oregon, came to me after 3 different doctors told her that her leg weakness and chronic fatigue were simply part of aging. She was 68 and walked with a cane. We added 2 roasted beets to her lunch 4 days a week. We also incorporated a short daily walk. In 12 weeks, she returned to my office without the cane. She was back to gardening, a passion she had abandoned. She cried telling me about it, and I don't care to admit that I also found that moment deeply emotional. Roast the beets at 200 degrees Celsius, 400 degrees Fahrenheit, for 45 to 60 minutes to concentrate the nitrates without destroying them. You can also blend raw beets into a smoothie with a small amount of citrus juice. Vitamin C from citrus drastically increases the efficiency of nitrate conversion. Do not boil beets for prolonged periods, as water-soluble nitrates dissolve. Combine beets with any lean protein source, and you will have one of the most powerful pre-activity meals available for the aging body. And now, number 1, the food I mentioned at the beginning of this video, the one that researchers at the Harvard Medical School have identified as one of the most powerful and protective compounds for muscles available to human beings over 60 years of age. The food that has been unfairly demonized, avoided, and eliminated from the diets of millions of older people based on outdated science and ingrained myths. Number 1 is extra virgin olive oil. I know some of you were expecting a protein, an exotic superfood powder, or something more flashy, but I want you to stay with me, because what I am about to explain about extra virgin olive oil and the aging muscle system will fundamentally reshape your thinking about fats, inflammation, and the structure of a strong and resilient body. Let's start with what makes extra virgin olive oil categorically different from any other dietary fat on the planet. It contains a compound called oleocanthal. Oleocanthal, a natural phenol, a plant compound that functions in your body in a way almost identical to ibuprofen. Yes, you read that right, an identical mechanism. It inhibits the same inflammatory enzymes, KIOX-1 and SHOX-2, which are the target of prescription anti-inflammatory medications. The crucial difference is that oleocanthal does this without the adverse side effects such as gastric bleeding, kidney strain, and cardiovascular risks associated with long-term use of NSAIDs, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. And, for older adults, who are disproportionately medicated with anti-inflammatories for joint and muscle pain. This is a critically important distinction, but the specific benefits for muscles go far beyond simple anti-inflammatory action. A pioneering study from the University of Athens, published in the journal Clinical Nutrition, followed 840 adults over 65 years of age for 3 years. Those who consumed a minimum of 4 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil daily showed a 37% lower incidence of sarcopenia compared to those who rarely consumed it. Sarcopenia, again, that is the technical term for the progressive and involuntary loss of muscle mass and strength, which begins around age 40 and accelerates drastically after 60. A 37% less sarcopenia thanks to olive oil. Here is the biological mechanism, and this is the part that Harvard researchers have found most convincing. The polyphenols present in extra virgin olive oil, of which there are more than 30 distinct types, seem to directly stimulate what is known as the mTOR pathway signaling in muscle cells. The mTOR pathway is the master switch for muscle protein synthesis. It is the same pathway that leucine activates, that resistance exercise activates, that anabolic hormones activate. The polyphenols in olive oil activate that switch independently. They do not require intense exercise. They do not require elevated levels of specific hormones. They work in the cell independently of what is happening around them. After 70 years of age, our body loses approximately 40% of its mTOR sensitivity. Our muscles are harder to build, not only due to lower protein intake or less exercise, but because the biological machinery that builds them is operating at a diminished capacity. Extra virgin olive oil is one of the few dietary compounds that appears capable of partially restoring that sensitivity. Think of it as recalibrating a thermostat that has been set too low for too long. And then there's the mitochondrial dimension. Research from the University of Jaén in Spain discovered that hydroxytyrosol, another polyphenol found in abundance in extra virgin olive oil, protects mitochondrial DNA in muscle cells from oxidative damage. As we age, our mitochondrial DNA accumulates errors like a manuscript that has been photocopied too many times. The copies become blurrier, the instructions become corrupted. The result is muscle cells that produce less energy, recover more slowly, and eventually stop functioning altogether. Hydroxytyrosol appears to slow down that mitochondrial degradation process by neutralizing the reactive oxygen species that cause the damage in the first place. I want to tell you about a patient, 81, a retired naval commander from Norfolk, Virginia. When he came to me, he had not been able to walk more than 2 blocks without stopping to rest. His legs, he said, simply refused to cooperate. His diet was clean, or so he thought, very low in fat, very lean. He had been avoiding fats for 30 years based on the guidelines of his time. We introduced 4 tablespoons of high-quality extra virgin olive oil into his daily routine. 2 in the morning over eggs, 2 at lunch over vegetables. We made no other changes during the first month. At his 6-week follow-up, he walked 4 blocks without stopping. At 12 weeks, he was back on his bicycle. At 6 months, he completed a 2-mile charity walk for a veterans organization. He sent me the photograph from the finish line. I have it on my office wall as a constant reminder of the power of nutrition. For practical use, 4 tablespoons daily is the target based on scientific evidence. Use it as your main fat for cooking over low or medium heat. Rocielo generosamente sobre verduras, eggs, fish, and legumes. For maximum absorption of its fat-soluble polyphenols, combine it with foods that contain fat-soluble vitamins, eggs, salmon, spinach, all of which you now know are already on this list. That synergy, is accidental. These 6 foods work together as a perfectly orchestrated system, and when you combine them consistently, the cumulative effect on your leg, strength, inflammation levels, mitochondrial health, and mobility is drastically greater than any individual food could achieve on its own. Buy extra virgin olive oil in dark glass bottles from reputable producers and look for a harvest date, not just an expiration date on the label. The polyphenol content degrades over time and exposure to light. Fresh olive oil is medicine. Old olive oil in clear bottles from supermarket sales is simply fat without its powerful benefits. Now, let me take this to a more personal and profound point, because I want to make sure that today you not only leave informed, but truly motivated to act. You were not designed to become a mere passenger in your own life. You are not meant to watch from the window as your grandchildren play in the garden with the feeling of not being able to join them. You are not created to cling to the handrail when going downstairs, to skip the family mountain hike, or to refuse a dance at a wedding for fear that your legs won't support you. That is not the destiny written in your biology. That is a consequence of information that was never clearly and timely given to you. And today, we have given it to you. Never is late to begin. I say this not as a simple encouragement or a motivational phrase, but as an undeniable clinical fact. The muscle tissue in the human body retains its capacity for growth and repair well into the 9th decade of life. Research is unequivocal about it. The body yearns to rebuild itself. It is waiting for the raw materials, the essential components to do so. Your task, starting today, starting with your next meal, is to provide those materials. 6 eggs, wild salmon, a bowl of spinach, a cup of Greek yogurt, 2 roasted beets, 4 tablespoons of the best olive oil you can find. These are not extraordinary or unattainable things. They are available in practically any supermarket in the world at your fingertips and have the power to give you back something that most people in your position have resigned themselves to losing forever. The freedom to move through your own life, on your own terms, with strength, with confidence, and with renewed joy. The scientific references for each study mentioned in this video are listed in the description. I encourage you to read them, share them with your doctor, and use them to advocate for your own health. If you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, I ask you to do it right now. Every week, we bring you evidence-based health content focused on the older adult. Valuable information that your doctor may not have time to share in a 15-minute appointment. This community is growing exponentially because people like you are sharing it with your loved ones, and that matters more than I can express in words. And now, I want to hear from you. Leave me a comment below. Tell me which of these 6 foods you are going to incorporate into your diet first. Tell me how your legs have felt lately. Tell me your story, because this channel exists for you. Not in the abstract, but for you specifically, with your name, your story, and your particular version of this health journey. I read every comment, and I say this with all sincerity. Until next time, eat well, move daily, and never stop believing that your best years are not behind you.